Brian arrived home from his job at the accounting firm, tired but looking forward to a quiet evening with his wife, Kathy. As he stepped into their suburban home in Brookside Heights, a pungent smell hit his nostrils. It was a mix of sweat and something sour, lingering in the air like an unwelcome guest. His stomach churned at the sight of their marital bed, sheets damp and wrinkled, emitting an unusual odor that made him recoil. "Kathy, what happened here?" Brian asked, trying to keep his tone casual despite the sinking feeling in his gut. Kathy, bustling around the kitchen, glanced over her shoulder with a nonchalant shrug. "Oh, nothing. Just spilled some bone broth earlier. Must have soaked through to the mattress." Brian furrowed his brow, unconvinced. Water didn't smell like that. He decided not to press further, but the unease lingered. He knew Kathy well enough to sense when something wasn't right. Later that evening, as they sat down for dinner, Brian couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling. He observed Kathy closely, noting her usual cheerful demeanor, but detecting a hint of nervousness in her fidgety movements. She avoided his gaze more than usual, pretending to be engrossed in her phone. After dinner, Brian excused himself to the bedroom under the pretense of needing to unpack from his business trip. Instead, he carefully examined the bed. The mattress pad felt damp, and there was indeed a lingering odor that didn't belong. His suspicions grew stronger. A plan formed in his mind. If Kathy wouldn't tell him the truth, he would find it himself. He retrieved a hidden camera he had purchased a while back for home security. Setting it up discreetly in the bedroom, he ensured it had a clear view of their bed. The rest of the evening passed in an uneasy quiet between them. Kathy retired early, claiming she wasn't feeling well. Brian watched her leave the room with a knot in his stomach, the camera now silently recording in the background. Alone in the living room, Brian tried to distract himself with a book, but his thoughts kept returning to the smell in the bedroom and Kathy's evasive behavior. He waited until he was sure she was asleep before retrieving his laptop and accessing the camera's feed. What he saw made his blood run cold. Kathy, clad in a revealing lingerie set he had never seen before, greeted three men at the bedroom door. They were muscular, strangers to him. They exchanged hushed words and nervous laughter as they entered, closing the door behind them. Brian's jaw tightened as he watched the scene unfold in silence. The men's presence filled him with a mix of rage and disbelief. What were they doing in his home, in his bed with his wife? As the night wore on, Brian couldn't tear himself away from the screen. His mind raced with questions, his heart heavy with betrayal. He saw enough to understand the source of the foul odor that had tainted their bed. Dawn approached by the time Brian closed the laptop, his mind made up. He knew what he had to do next. Before embarking on his next business trip, Brian meticulously set up a hidden camera in the corner of their bedroom. It was discreetly positioned to capture every angle of the room without arousing suspicion. He double-checked the settings, ensuring the camera would record throughout his absence. The process was methodical, each step a deliberate act fueled by a growing sense of unease. Brian knew he had to uncover the truth, but he wasn't prepared for what the camera might reveal. As he adjusted the lens, his mind raced with conflicting emotions, dread mingled with determination to confront whatever lay ahead. With the camera in place, Brian packed his suitcase with the usual efficiency. He folded his clothes neatly, selecting the appropriate attire for his upcoming meetings. Amidst the routine of packing, his thoughts kept drifting back to the footage he hoped to review upon his return. Kathy, unaware of his actions, kissed him goodbye at the door as he left for the airport. Her smile seemed genuine, yet Brian couldn't shake off the image of her in the lingerie, surrounded by strangers in their own bedroom. During the flight, Brian distracted himself with work documents and emails, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy. Yet, beneath the surface, his mind churned with questions. What had driven Kathy to betray him in such a brazen manner? How long had it been going on? Upon landing, Brian checked into his hotel and settled into his room. He unpacked efficiently, arranging his belongings with practiced ease. Despite the unfamiliar surroundings, his thoughts returned to the impending confrontation with the truth he had captured on camera. That evening, after a dinner meeting with clients, Brian logged into his laptop and accessed the camera's live feed. His heart pounded as he watched the bedroom scene unfold in real time. The familiar sight of their bedroom offered little comfort now, overshadowed by the impending revelation. The hours ticked by slowly as Brian observed the mundane activities. A glimpse of Kathy tidying up, moving about the room with an air of casualness that belied the secrets he knew lay hidden. He waited, his patience stretched thin by anticipation. As midnight approached, Brian saw movement at the bedroom door. His breath caught in his throat as Kathy appeared, dressed in the provocative lingerie. The three men followed closely behind, their presence casting long shadows in the dimly lit room. Brian's hands clenched into fists as he watched them interact, laughter tinged with nervous energy, gestures that spoke of familiarity he had never known. The sight of Kathy's smile, reserved now for strangers in their private sanctuary, fueled his determination to uncover the full extent of her betrayal. With the evidence before him, Brian closed the laptop, his mind made up. He knew what he had to do next, to confront Kathy with the truth and demand answers. The mix of dread and resolve hardened into a steely determination as he prepared for the inevitable confrontation that awaited him upon his return home. During his business trip in the bustling city of Chicago, Brian found a spare moment in his hotel room to review the footage captured by the hidden camera. With a tense breath, he opened his laptop and accessed the encrypted files that held the truth he feared. The familiar sight of their bedroom greeted him on the screen, a stark contrast to the sterile hotel room surroundings. Brian fast-forwarded through mundane moments, a glimpse of Kathy entering the room, a brief pause where she rearranged a few items. Then, the moment arrived. Kathy appeared on the screen, adorned in lingerie that Brian had never seen before. She moved with a confidence that struck him as unfamiliar, greeting three men at the bedroom door. They entered, their presence filling the room with a tension that made Brian's stomach churn. He watched in silent disbelief as the men engaged with Kathy, their actions a stark contrast to the intimacy Brian had once cherished. They laughed, exchanged whispers that were lost to the camera's muted audio. The familiarity between them was evident, a betrayal that cut deeper than Brian had imagined. As the night wore on in the footage, Brian's discomfort grew. He observed the men's movements, gestures that hinted at a camaraderie he had never been a part of. The realization hit him like a wave crashing against the shore. The distinctive smell that had tainted their marital bed now had a clear origin. His mind raced with questions as he rewound and replayed segments of the footage, seeking clarity amidst the chaos of emotions he refused to acknowledge. Each replay brought a new detail into focus, the way Kathy's laughter echoed in the room, the way the men's shadows danced on the walls. Hours passed as Brian dissected the footage, his determination to understand the extent of Kathy's betrayal unwavering. He noted the subtle shifts in their interactions, the moments of intimacy that now belonged to strangers. The scene unfolded before him, a silent narrative of secrets laid bare. With a heavy sigh, Brian closed the laptop, his mind reeling from the revelation. The reality of Kathy's infidelity settled like a weight upon his shoulders, pushing him into a realm of decisions he never thought he would face. The business trip, once a routine escape from home, had become a crucible of truth he could no longer deny. In the quiet of the hotel room, Brian made a choice. He would return home, confront Kathy with the evidence he had gathered, and demand answers that would unravel the facade of their life together. The actions of those men, captured in pixels and silence, had shattered his illusions and ignited a resolve that burned brighter than any emotion he dared to name. During a restless night in his hotel room in downtown Chicago, Brian's thoughts wandered back to the unsettling footage he had uncovered. His mind buzzed with unanswered questions as he replayed the scenes in his head, each frame revealing more about Kathy's betrayal. The next morning, Brian checked out of his hotel and boarded a flight back home to their quiet suburb. The familiar sights of their neighborhood seemed oddly foreign now, tinged with the weight of what he knew. As he entered their house on Maple Street, Brian's eyes were drawn to a small, inconspicuous door tucked away in a corner of their bedroom. Curiosity gripped him as he approached the hidden door. He had never noticed it before, its presence now an enigma that begged to be solved. With cautious fingers, Brian turned the handle and pushed the door open, revealing a small storage space lined with shelves. Inside, he found nothing out of the ordinary, a few boxes of old clothes, some books they had long forgotten. Yet, the discovery fueled his suspicion. Why had Kathy never mentioned this hidden compartment? What else could she be hiding from him? As Brian pondered these questions, his phone buzzed with a new message notification. An anonymous sender, their identity masked by a series of numbers, had sent a cryptic message. "You don't know everything about Kathy. Look deeper." The hairs on the back of Brian's neck stood on end as he read the message again. Who could know about Kathy's infidelity? Was someone watching them, privy to secrets he had yet to uncover? The paranoia crept into his thoughts, casting a shadow over his once trusted surroundings. Over the coming days, Brian received more anonymous messages, each one hinting at Kathy's hidden life, her secrets whispered through the digital veil of anonymity. He tried to trace the sender, but the numbers led to dead ends, leaving him frustrated and more uncertain than ever. Meanwhile, life continued its outwardly normal pace. Kathy greeted him with a smile each morning, oblivious to the turmoil brewing within Brian. They exchanged pleasantries over breakfast, discussed mundane details of their day ahead, all the while hiding behind masks of routine. At night, Brian retreated to their bedroom, the hidden compartment a constant reminder of the secrets lurking beneath the surface. He searched through old documents, rifled through drawers in search of clues that might explain Kathy's betrayal. Each discovery, whether a forgotten receipt or an old photo, only deepened the mystery. The anonymous messages continued, their frequency increasing as if urging Brian to uncover the truth. He became consumed by his quest, driven by a need to understand the woman he thought he knew. The lines between reality and suspicion blurred, leaving Brian trapped in a maze of his own making. As he stood before the hidden compartment one evening, Brian made a decision. He would confront Kathy with his findings, demand the truth that had eluded him for too long. The secrets buried within their home were no longer just hers, they were his to unravel, piece by elusive piece. In the days following his discovery, Brian wrestled with the unsettling truth revealed by the hidden camera. His routine became a series of calculated actions, each step a deliberate attempt to maintain normalcy while grappling with the betrayal lurking beneath the surface. As he navigated through the motions of daily life, Brian found himself face-to-face with Gary, a colleague from the accounting firm where he worked. Gary's presence at the office usually brought a sense of camaraderie, but now it stirred a different emotion within Brian, a simmering mix of anger and disbelief. Gary greeted Brian with a casual wave, unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath his colleague's composed facade. They exchanged pleasantries about work projects, their conversation punctuated by awkward pauses that hinted at unspoken tension. Brian couldn't help but scrutinize Gary's every gesture, searching for any sign of guilt or remorse. Later that day, during a lunch break in the office cafeteria, Brian overheard Gary's voice mingling with other colleagues. His laughter echoed across the room, a sound that once brought comfort now grated on Brian's nerves. He struggled to reconcile the image of the friendly colleague with the man he had seen in the footage, intimate with Kathy in their own bedroom. The revelation of Gary's involvement deepened the betrayal Brian felt. It wasn't just Kathy who had deceived him. It was someone he considered a friend, a confidant in the workplace. The lines between personal and professional loyalty blurred, leaving Brian with a bitter taste of betrayal that lingered long after the lunch hour ended. Back at home, Brian's interactions with Kathy became strained. He watched her move about the house with practiced ease, unaware of the storm brewing within him. They exchanged polite conversation over dinner, discussing trivial matters that masked the underlying tension. In the quiet moments of the evening, Brian retreated to their study, his thoughts consumed by the complexities of his next steps. He replayed the footage in his mind, dissecting every detail of Kathy's interactions with Gary and the other men. The emotional impact weighed heavily on him, complicating his resolve to confront Kathy with the truth. Days turned into weeks as Brian wrestled with his emotions in silence. He avoided social gatherings where Gary might be present, preferring solitude to the uneasy camaraderie of their workplace. The strain of maintaining appearances took its toll, eroding the trust that once defined his relationships. As he stood before the mirror one evening, Brian saw a reflection of a man changed by betrayal. His resolve hardened, fueled by a determination to uncover the full extent of Kathy's deception. The personal betrayal he felt at Gary's hands added a layer of complexity to his quest for truth, a quest that would redefine the boundaries of trust and loyalty in his world. In the weeks that followed, Brian's investigation into Kathy's betrayal deepened, revealing a trail of financial deception that further shattered his trust. It began with a routine check of their joint bank accounts, a task he approached with a sense of duty amidst the turmoil of emotions he kept tightly controlled. Sitting at their kitchen table one evening, Brian logged into their online banking portal. His eyes scanned the transaction history, searching for anomalies that might shed light on Kathy's secretive activities. What he discovered left him reeling. There, amidst the mundane expenses of groceries and utility bills, were withdrawals, significant sums of money that had been transferred to unknown accounts. They were followed by payments for lavish gifts and hotel stays, transactions that painted a picture of a life Kathy had kept hidden from him. The realization hit Brian like a punch to the gut. Kathy had been funding her affair with the money they had earned together, using their joint accounts as a source of financial support for her illicit activities. The trust they had built over years of marriage had been undermined by her deceit. With a steely resolve, Brian confronted Kathy that same evening. He presented her with the evidence, printed statements that detailed the withdrawals and expenditures she had made without his knowledge. Kathy's initial shock quickly gave way to silence as she struggled to find words to justify her actions. They sat in the dimly lit kitchen, the weight of their confrontation hanging heavy in the air. Brian's voice was firm but controlled as he demanded an explanation, his emotions carefully masked behind a facade of determination. Kathy, her usual composure shaken, attempted to deflect blame, but the evidence spoke louder than her excuses. As they discussed the financial betrayal, Brian felt a sense of detachment settle over him. He listened as Kathy attempted to explain away each transaction, her words falling flat against the backdrop of his growing disillusionment. The intimacy they once shared seemed like a distant memory now, replaced by the harsh reality of her actions. In the days that followed, Brian took steps to secure their finances, implementing safeguards to prevent further unauthorized withdrawals. He closed the accounts linked to Kathy's clandestine activities, severing the financial ties that had been manipulated for her own gain. Their home, once a sanctuary of shared dreams and aspirations, became a battleground of mistrust and resentment. They navigated through the routines of daily life with strained politeness, each interaction tinged with the lingering aftermath of betrayal. In the quiet moments of solitude, Brian wrestled with the implications of Kathy's actions. The financial deception had shattered his belief in their partnership, leaving him to rebuild his sense of security and trust. He faced the daunting task of untangling their intertwined lives, navigating a path forward that seemed uncertain in the wake of Kathy's betrayal. In the midst of turmoil, Brian sought clarity from a legal perspective, visiting a downtown law office that overlooked the bustling cityscape. The sleek, modern decor of the reception area contrasted sharply with his inner turmoil as he waited to consult with a divorce lawyer. After what felt like an eternity, Brian was ushered into a spacious office adorned with shelves of law books and framed diplomas. The lawyer, a seasoned woman named Ms. Davidson, greeted him with a professional demeanor that belied the sensitivity of his situation. They sat across from each other at a polished wooden table, where Brian laid out the facts with a concise, matter-of-fact tone. Ms. Davidson listened attentively as Brian recounted the discovery of Kathy's affair and the subsequent financial deception. Her expression remained neutral, her eyes focused on him as he detailed his desire to understand his legal rights and options. With a nod, Ms. Davidson began to outline the legal implications of Brian's predicament. She explained the process of divorce in clear, precise terms, highlighting the division of assets and potential financial obligations. Brian listened intently, absorbing the information without betraying any outward emotion. As their discussion progressed, Ms. Davidson revealed a surprising detail. Kathy had consulted her own legal counsel and was preparing to file for divorce. Her goal, it seemed, was to secure a substantial portion of their shared assets, despite her infidelity and misuse of their finances. The revelation added a new dimension to Brian's dilemma. He had anticipated the emotional fallout of confronting Kathy, but the legal ramifications of her actions caught him off guard. The prospect of a contentious divorce, fueled by Kathy's betrayal and financial deception, loomed large in his mind. Throughout the consultation, Brian maintained a composed facade, his mind racing with calculations and strategic considerations. He questioned Ms. Davidson about custody arrangements for their children, mindful of their well-being amidst the upheaval of their marriage. As the meeting drew to a close, Brian thanked Ms. Davidson for her insights and expertise. He left the law office with a folder of legal documents and a newfound sense of resolve. The legal crossroads ahead would test his resilience and determination, requiring him to navigate a complex web of emotions and legalities with clarity and purpose. Back at home, Brian sifted through the paperwork he had gathered, preparing himself for the challenges that lay ahead. The house was quiet, its familiar comforts now tinged with uncertainty. He glanced at the family photos adorning the walls, each frame a reminder of the life they had built together, a life now fractured by betrayal and legal uncertainty. In the days that followed, Brian weighed his options carefully, consulting with trusted friends and advisors. He began to formulate a plan, a strategy to protect his interests and secure a future for himself and his children amidst the legal storm unleashed by Kathy's actions. Brian's pursuit of closure led him to a dimly lit bar on the outskirts of town, where he had tracked down one of the men from the incriminating footage. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of alcohol and muted conversations, a stark contrast to the controlled environment of his workplace or home. He spotted Gary sitting alone at the bar, nursing a drink with an air of nonchalance that grated on Brian's nerves. With measured steps, Brian approached him, his demeanor steely and resolute. Gary glanced up, recognition flickering in his eyes before giving way to apprehension as Brian loomed over him. The confrontation began with terse words exchanged in hushed tones, their voices barely audible over the din of the bar. Brian's accusations were met with defensive denials from Gary, who attempted to brush off the severity of his actions with feigned ignorance and excuses. Emotions simmered beneath the surface as Brian's anger threatened to boil over. He struggled to maintain his composure, his fists clenched at his sides as he fought the urge to lash out. Gary's attempts at deflection only fueled Brian's determination to uncover the truth and hold him accountable for his betrayal. As tension escalated, the exchange grew heated, drawing the attention of nearby patrons who glanced over with curiosity. Brian's voice rose, his words sharp and accusatory, punctuated by Gary's futile attempts to salvage his tarnished reputation. The confrontation teetered on the edge of violence, each man poised on the precipice of a physical altercation that threatened to spill into chaos. The bar grew quiet around them, the air thick with anticipation as bystanders watched with bated breath. In a moment of clarity, Brian stepped back, his resolve hardening into a silent resolve. He realized that confronting Gary in a public place would not yield the closure he sought. With a final glare, Brian turned on his heel and walked away, leaving Gary to stew in the aftermath of his own actions. Outside, the cool night air offered a brief respite from the intensity of the confrontation. Brian took a deep breath, his mind racing with conflicting emotions, anger, betrayal, and a lingering sense of injustice. He knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he refused to let his emotions cloud his judgment. As he drove home through empty streets illuminated by flickering streetlights, Brian replayed the confrontation in his mind. He pondered the complexities of human relationships and the fragile trust that had been shattered by Kathy's infidelity and Gary's betrayal. Arriving home, Brian found solace in the quiet familiarity of their house. He slipped into bed beside Kathy, her peaceful slumber a stark contrast to the turmoil raging within him. He lay awake in the darkness, contemplating the events of the evening and the choices that lay ahead as he navigated the aftermath of the confrontation. In his quest for understanding, Brian delved into the depths of their family history, seeking clues that might unravel the mystery of Kathy's betrayal. He spent late nights in their study, surrounded by dusty photo albums and forgotten heirlooms that whispered of generations past. Among the yellowed pages of an old family album, Brian stumbled upon photographs of Kathy's parents, a stern-looking father with a military bearing and a gentle, smiling mother whose warmth seemed to leap from the faded photographs. Their faces held secrets, stories untold that hinted at the roots of Kathy's complexities. Driven by a relentless curiosity, Brian unearthed letters tucked away in a forgotten drawer, a correspondence between Kathy's parents that spanned decades. The ink had faded with time, but the words spoke of love, loss, and the unspoken sacrifices that shaped their lives. As he pieced together the fragments of their family history, Brian uncovered a pivotal moment, a long-buried scandal that had torn apart Kathy's family years ago. Whispers of infidelity and betrayal echoed through the letters, casting a shadow over the foundation upon which Kathy had built her life. The revelations challenged Brian's understanding of their relationship, forcing him to confront the complexities of Kathy's upbringing and the lingering scars that had shaped her worldview. He realized that her actions were not merely a reflection of their marriage, but a tangled web of inherited secrets and unspoken truths. In the quiet solitude of their study, Brian traced the lines of Kathy's family tree, a tapestry woven with threads of resilience and regret. He saw echoes of her father's stoicism in her unwavering resolve and glimpses of her mother's warmth in fleeting moments of tenderness. The discovery of family secrets shed light on Kathy's behavior and motives, offering Brian a glimpse into the depths of her soul. He wrestled with conflicting emotions, compassion for the wounds she carried and anger at the betrayal that had fractured their marriage. Armed with newfound understanding, Brian approached Kathy with caution, navigating the delicate terrain of their shared history. He sought to bridge the divide that had widened between them, offering a glimpse of empathy amidst the wreckage of their shattered trust. Together, they revisited the letters and photographs that had revealed the hidden truths of Kathy's past. Their conversations were tinged with vulnerability and a tentative hope for reconciliation, a fragile bridge built on the foundation of honesty and understanding. As they navigated through the aftermath of revelations, Brian found solace in their shared journey of healing. They faced the complexities of their past with courage, embracing the imperfections that had shaped their lives and forging a path forward, one small step at a time. In the wake of the affair's revelation, Brian found himself navigating a landscape fraught with social repercussions. Their once vibrant social circle became a minefield of whispered conversations and awkward silences, each encounter tinged with the uncomfortable awareness of shared secrets. It began with a casual dinner party at their friend's elegant home, a gathering that had once been a refuge of laughter and camaraderie. As Brian mingled with familiar faces, he sensed the subtle shift in their demeanor. A fleeting glance exchanged between friends, a hesitant pause in conversation whenever he approached. Rumors spread like wildfire through their social circle, fueled by speculation and hearsay. Whispers of Kathy's infidelity and Brian's stoic response became the topic of hushed conversations at cocktail parties and neighborhood gatherings. The air was thick with unspoken judgment, leaving Brian to navigate a maze of polite smiles and veiled inquiries. At their weekly tennis match with close friends, Brian felt the weight of their unspoken thoughts pressing down on him. The easy banter they had once shared now faltered, replaced by a palpable tension that hung heavy in the air. He tried to focus on the game, but each missed shot felt like a judgment, a reflection of his perceived failures. Evenings spent at their favorite local bistro turned into exercises in restraint as Brian endured the sympathetic glances and probing questions of acquaintances. He ordered his usual, a glass of red wine and a plate of pasta, but the familiarity of the routine offered little comfort amidst the scrutiny of their community. The isolation was palpable, a silent barrier that separated Brian from the camaraderie he had once cherished. He retreated into a solitary routine, finding solace in early morning runs along the riverbank and quiet evenings spent lost in books that offered a temporary escape from the realities of his unraveling social life. The once bustling calendar of social engagements dwindled to occasional invitations and obligatory appearances. Brian attended charity fundraisers and neighborhood barbecues with a practiced smile, his interactions measured and guarded. He maintained a polite distance from conversations that veered towards gossip, unwilling to feed the speculation that swirled around him. In the quiet moments of introspection, Brian grappled with the emotional toll of their social fallout. He questioned his place within their community, grappling with feelings of embarrassment and resentment that simmered beneath the surface. The judgment of their friends and acquaintances echoed in his thoughts, challenging his sense of self and identity. As the weeks passed, Brian found a semblance of acceptance amidst the uncertainty. He focused on rebuilding his life with quiet determination, finding solace in the routines and rituals that grounded him amidst the turbulence. He sought refuge in the simple pleasures of everyday life, a shared meal with his children, a quiet walk through their neighborhood at dusk. Amidst the social fallout and emotional turmoil, Brian discovered a resilience he hadn't known existed, a strength forged in the fires of betrayal and judgment. He faced each day with renewed resolve, navigating the complexities of his unraveling social circle with grace and quiet determination. Brian's nights became haunted by relentless turmoil, his mind tormented by visions that blurred the line between reality and nightmare. In the darkness of their bedroom, he would awaken with a start, sweat-soaked sheets clinging to his skin, a testament to the psychological battle raging within. Hallucinations crept into his waking hours, fleeting images that flickered at the periphery of his vision. A glimpse of Kathy's smiling face twisted into a mask of deceit, or the shadowy silhouettes of men lurking in the corners of their home. Each apparition fueled his growing sense of unease, a constant reminder of the betrayal that had shattered his world. During solitary walks through their neighborhood, Brian found himself haunted by echoes of their shared past, a familiar park bench where they had once lingered hand in hand, now a poignant reminder of lost innocence and shattered trust. He sought solace in the rhythmic cadence of his footsteps, a futile attempt to outrun the ghosts that haunted his thoughts. At work, he struggled to maintain focus amidst the relentless onslaught of memories and what-ifs that plagued his mind. The once familiar routine of meetings and deadlines now felt like a distant echo, overshadowed by the weight of unresolved emotions and unanswered questions. In moments of quiet introspection, Brian wrestled with the complexities of forgiveness and redemption, a journey fraught with uncertainty and inner turmoil. He questioned his own capacity for forgiveness, grappling with the dichotomy of love and betrayal that had defined their marriage. Seeking refuge in the familiar confines of their study, Brian immersed himself in books and articles on psychology and human behavior, a quest for understanding that bordered on obsession. He devoured texts on trauma and resilience, searching for answers that eluded him in the tumultuous landscape of his fractured psyche. His conversations with friends and confidants offered fleeting moments of clarity amidst the chaos, a shared meal at their favorite diner, where laughter mingled with whispered words of encouragement. They bore witness to his unraveling, offering a lifeline of support that anchored him amidst the storm. As days turned into weeks, Brian's mental health deteriorated under the weight of unresolved grief and emotional turmoil. He sought refuge in therapy sessions, where words spilled forth like fragments of a fractured puzzle, an attempt to piece together the shattered remnants of his sense of self. In the quiet hours before dawn, Brian found solace in the sanctuary of their bedroom, a place where whispered confessions and tear-stained pillows bore witness to the raw vulnerability of his inner turmoil. He clung to moments of fleeting peace, a fragile respite amidst the tempest that raged within. Through it all, Brian confronted the depths of his psychological turmoil with a resilience born of necessity, a steadfast determination to navigate the labyrinthine corridors of grief and betrayal with quiet resolve. He embraced the uncertainty of his uncertain future, finding strength in the fragments of hope that shimmered amidst the darkness. Brian's mind, sharpened by betrayal and fueled by simmering anger, began to churn with thoughts of retribution. He retreated into the depths of their basement, a dimly lit sanctuary filled with tools and discarded remnants of past projects, a haven where his thoughts could unfold undisturbed. With meticulous precision, he mapped out a revenge plot that would serve as both punishment and catharsis, a symphony of calculated moves designed to exact justice from those who had trespassed against him. He pored over blueprints and schematics, plotting each step with the precision of a seasoned strategist. The first phase of his plan unfolded in the quiet hours of the night, a series of discreet inquiries and clandestine surveillance aimed at gathering intelligence on Kathy's movements and those of her accomplices. He tracked their routines with the patience of a hunter stalking prey, his determination unyielding in the face of mounting obstacles. In the shadows of their garage, Brian assembled a cache of tools and equipment, a hidden arsenal of implements that would serve as instruments of his revenge. He meticulously inspected each item, ensuring that they were meticulously prepared for the role they would play in his meticulously constructed plot. A pivotal moment arrived when Brian intercepted a crucial piece of information, a cryptic message exchanged between Kathy and one of her paramours, unwittingly revealing the details of their clandestine rendezvous. He seized upon this revelation with a sense of vindication, his resolve hardened by the confirmation of their betrayal. With the precision of a master strategist, Brian orchestrated a series of carefully timed maneuvers, a calculated escalation that would culminate in a dramatic and unexpected conclusion. He planted subtle seeds of discord among Kathy's inner circle, sowing doubt and mistrust with surgical precision. As the pieces of his revenge plot fell into place, Brian found himself navigating a delicate balance of anticipation and restraint. He resisted the temptation to prematurely unveil his hand, instead biding his time with the patience of a predator lying in wait. In the quiet solitude of their backyard, Brian erected a makeshift stage, a canvas upon which his meticulously orchestrated revenge plot would unfold. He rehearsed each move with meticulous attention to detail, envisioning the moment when he would reclaim his dignity and sense of self-worth. Driven by a potent blend of anger and determination, Brian embarked on a journey of retribution, a quest for justice that would reshape the landscape of his shattered reality. He steeled himself for the inevitable confrontation, his heart hardened by the weight of betrayal and the burning desire for redemption. Through the haze of uncertainty and mounting tension, Brian found solace in the clarity of purpose that his revenge plot provided. He embraced the role of architect and executioner, navigating the labyrinthine corridors of his meticulously constructed plan with unwavering resolve. As the final pieces of his revenge plot fell into place, Brian stood poised on the precipice of a dramatic and unexpected conclusion, a testament to the depths of his resilience and the unyielding strength of his spirit.